probably the most damning, and I believe is why we are getting most of these calls right now. It is around these conflicts of interest. And the people that are moderating or facilitating, they are working for specific companies. That is an obvious conflict of interest where sharing the financial information would put others at risk.
Put that coffee down.
Creators are leaders. Be careful what kind of leaders you're producing here.
Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I sucked as a salesman.
They realized that to be in power, you didn't need guns or money or even numbers. You just needed the will to do what the other guy wouldn't.
I'm not leaving. The show goes on.
Well, hello there, friend. Welcome to the Construction Leadership Podcast, where we deliver ideas and insights from leaders across the construction industry every single week to help you lead more effectively. ETP, Erik the producer. We are here, live on location, little stopover in Newark, New Jersey. Lovely little city right there by the waterway. Not sure what water that was. And then we found our way in here to Lancaster. Not Lancaster.
No.
For the love of Pete. It ain't Lancaster.
No, it's Lancaster.
That's Lancaster. So we're here. We've taken the pod on the road. This will be a little bit different. This is more of a PSA, a public service announcement, if you will. Should we dive right in here?
No, not yet. Can you thank the sponsor?
Yes. That's a good point. Let's do that. Our dear friends at Capital One Trade Credit. If you, my friend, are interested in increasing top-line revenue while increasing cash flow, while decreasing risk. Erik Rossi. That's what I'm talking about. Risk down, cash flow up, revenue up. They said it was impossible. Capital One Trade Credit proved it's not. If you're interested, Google Capital One Trade Credit.
Bradley, you've been receiving a lot of inbound traffic lately. Our team has noticed that you've been maybe a little bit distracted. What's going on here?
No, that's fair. We were somewhat minding our own business, and all of a sudden there have been, I believe the number is 7 right now. 7 different calls have come in on a single topic that I found very interesting. And this is on the topic of round tables, of individuals getting together from different teams to share different operational practices, to be sharing financials, to get together to learn from one another. And this has been going on for a long time. And by and large, what I have heard is that people have been really happy in general over the past, 10, 15 years or so with the arrangements. Then all of a sudden, there has been this flurry of calls that have been coming in on roundtables with some very specific things that they find objectionable.
So give me an example. What are we talking here?
So there's a handful, and a lot of these do have some commonalities. The first, I think, is this discrepancy between give and take. And a lot of the folks that go feel like I'm there and I'm spilling my guts and I'm training these other companies, but I'm not taking much away. And whether we're driving home or we're flying home, we're reflecting on maybe some inequities between the balance of what we've given out and what we've taken. So I think that's the first one. The second one is that there's often no real tight agenda. It's a little bit loose, and that ends up having, a bunch of people kind of BSing and not really a focused conversation that is sticking to a script. The third one is the practice of data collection. And what one person described to me is, 90 days before we go, we get this big Excel spreadsheet and we have all this information to collect. And then we delay on it or we get busy. And then 72 hours before it's due, we're there just cramming all the information in there. And then you arrive and realize some other folks did the same thing. The data's not right. You're comparing apples to oranges. And the whole idea is for us to really have solid benchmarks and to truly understand where, as a group, the ranking falls to where we could do better, or maybe some ways that we are the best of a bunch and we can share details on that. The fourth complaint that I heard multiple times was that there are nice people there. They are generally knowledgeable, but they are not experts on specific areas that need improvement. The fifth common complaint was a general disinterest in taking more tours of lumber yards. And one person spoke very candidly and said, I've seen more lumberyards than almost anyone on the face of the planet. I don't want to go see another one in fill in the blank of a city. And they said, I'd rather see something else that I haven't seen before that I can think about how I can apply this to my business. And Erik, the sixth one I would say is probably the most damning, and I believe is why we are getting most of these calls right now. It is around these conflicts of interest. And the people that are moderating or facilitating, they are working for specific companies. That is an obvious conflict of interest where sharing the financial information would put others at risk or create at least the potential for impropriety, or moderators that broker other businesses, that to value those businesses when they help sell them, the financial information that is shared is extremely valuable. And finally, they sit on boards of other companies that compete against people that are in these roundtables. I find this whole thing absolutely flabbergasting. And I think this is why a lot of these calls are coming right around now, right around the same exact time.
The conflict of interest, that's a big one.
Yes.
Yeah. How long have these existed? Is this a new thing or has this existed in the past?
Erik, that's a fantastic question. I'm not going to answer right now. Do you have a follow-up question?
Fair enough. If those are the complaints about the status quo, what are you going to do about it?
So, Erik, to your point, we're going to start with the most blatant one. We're going to make sure that we are very transparent and we are very public. There's going to be no conflict of interest there whatsoever. We're not brokering businesses. We're not working for a competitor. We are steering so clear of impropriety and doing it in a transparent way that can be incredibly obvious. The next one is kind of this idea of kind of the give and take. And I think this comes from planning and prior to people coming, having some conversations really about new insights in the business and what do they have to share. And if they don't have anything or there's nothing new or original or different, that we need to help them get there or find better questions to ask so we don't have this inequity between those who give and those who consistently take. Erik, on this idea of data collection and having financials that might not be accurate or have formula errors or create the situation where we are comparing apples to oranges, I think this really plays into our strong suit as we move forward, which is really focusing on sales performance analytics and collecting data and having an expert on our team who can organize that on a large enough sample size to create predictive analytics and to get these individuals, instead of jamming out on these giant 14-tab Excel spreadsheets, they are going to be submitting data every month. And we're going to start developing this analytics dashboard for this entire group. And we're going to do that on a monthly basis, as opposed to kind of the high school version of cramming for the test the night before it's due.
Yeah. And when we think about expertise, I think about our OSR Academy, our Sales Fundamentals Workshop. We bring experts in to share their knowledge with a group of people. I think that's something we do very well and can be an asset here.
Yeah, and I think in an industry where often people host events and bring people in and give them a microphone and don't pay them their fee or fine them specifically because they don't charge, that probably means, not all the time, but sometimes there's a lack of expertise. And I think, to your point, part of our network is knowing a lot of really talented people within the construction industry that are doing powerful things and are really successful in a certain domain. And we can connect with them and invest in them to share their expertise. And one example, somebody mentioned they were really struggling with recruiting at universities. And I can think of 3 clients right off the bat that come from the commercial construction side that have a really targeted, specific, predictable recruiting regimen that they execute consistently, and they get a ton of talent from these universities. And as I was kind of just riffing on this to this individual, he's like, who is that? Could they be a guest speaker? And I said, yeah, absolutely. We can bring guest speakers in, and maybe it's only 45 minutes or maybe it's an hour and maybe it's over beers, but there are people who are doing things in an exemplary fashion. How do we bring them in the fold? And to your point, I think we do that well. And I love doing that. I love collaborating with those folks. So absolutely, we're talking about who these guest speakers are and how we can leverage our network or find people who can fill those voids.
And I know you. Let's just say I've been here a little over a year, so it doesn't take long. You like premium events. So what are your thoughts around hosting something like a roundtable?
Yeah, I think if we're going to do it, I think it's got to be better. I think it's got to be different. We have consistently seen that people are willing to pay more, but they expect more. But if they deliver, they will absolutely continue to reinvest. And this kind of goes to one of our ideas on the idea of kind of the tired lumber tour. Like for some of these individuals who own lumber yards, I'm sure they have been on several hundred tours of lumber yards. Now, is there always something you can learn or notice? Sure. But part of the investment I think we're thinking about is how do we go do something totally different? Going to an Amazon distribution center or going to a Tesla gigafactory or going to a silicon wafer fab. Like, how can we go to someplace that from a really high level is kind of doing the same thing, but in a really, really different way, and totally rethink where we get ideas and innovation and put us in different environments, very different from what we see every day. And that sort of thing excites me. And as I was sharing some potential ideas, number one, I think there's interest in that. And number two, when you start thinking about everyone in my network and then the individuals who are excited about this and everyone in their network, even if we wanted to go to some crazy off the wall place, like Wolfgang Puck's kitchen at his main restaurant in LA, somebody knows somebody who knows somebody that maybe we can make that happen. And I think it's really trying to figure out these network effects and who we can connect to really have some really unique experiences that are really different than going to another lumberyard.
Yeah, nobody wants to go see another lumberyard, I don't think. But you take another tour of somewhere else, and these folks can gain insight into how other people do it and bring it back to their own company.
Yeah, 100%. So that's a recap. So here's the deal. This is kind of the PSA version of this message. And here's a call to action. If you are interested in investigating what a different roundtable might look like, who you would like to be in that, and if you would like us theoretically to host this, we are looking at doing this in the fall of 2023. We already have several folks who've raised their hand and said, I'm definitely out over here, and here's why. And I'm definitely in if you are. So we are looking at fall of 2023. So if you are interested, feel free to email me directly at bradley@bradleyhartmanandco.com. Again, bradley@bradleyhartmanandco.com. In the subject line, just put roundtable. And again, our goal here is to really differentiate this roundtable in the professionalism and the detail in analytics, both with dashboards as well as predictive analytics, investing in a really tight agenda and facilitating these to making sure everyone is sharing in the insights and giving as well as taking. We're looking at some guest speakers. And I would say most importantly, we are going to be extremely transparent and avoid any sort of conflicts of interest. Not working for any companies that compete with anybody in the roundtable, not working directly for anyone in people in the roundtable, not brokering businesses, leveraging the information that is in there. And I'm not sitting at any boards that compete with organizations in our roundtable. Erik, that doesn't seem to me like a crazy idea or an irrational expectation.
No, we're Switzerland.
We are, as it turns out, I am just a little bit Swiss, just a little bit.
Tiny little bit.
A wee little bit.
A wee little bit.
Actually, I don't think that's how the Swiss speak at all. But anyway, all right, that's our commitment. So if you're interested, email me directly at bradley@bradleyhartmanandco.com. Would love to talk to you, hear what you're interested in, and seeing if it's a fit. We are still evaluating this, but it looks like we will be moving forward in fall of 2023. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So ETP, Erik, the producer, this is live from, actually, it's not live. We're not live at all. We're going to put this out much later, but we're on site. We're in Lancaster. You got a pint of Yingling right in front of you. It might be the oldest brewery, but it's not the finest brewery. It's okay.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Yes.
Good.
It's nice to be back in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, sure.
Not too far away from my original birthplace, but
Right.
it's nice to be back in Pennsylvania, having a Yingling and spending some time in Lancaster.
And talking roundtables.
Yes,
If you're
roundtables.
interested, follow up. Again, want to thank our friends, our dear, dear friends at Capital One Trade Credit. If you want to increase cash flow, increase revenue while decreasing risk by leveraging a state-of-the-art digital platform that makes it easier for your customers to buy from you, well, damn it, check out Capital One Trade Credit as soon as possible. Erik, why don't we check out like we always do with our leadership mantra? You, my friend, are owed nothing.
Deliver value first.
Thanks for listening. Let me know if you're interested in the roundtable. Regardless, have a great week.